Girl, my 5-year-old daughter came home from school and saw a huge sold sign in front of our house. Girl Snowflake houses my mother, who was waiting there. Told her that she is now homeless and should wait at the gate until someone picks her up. My daughter stood there confused and crying in the cold. When she tried to come inside, my mother shoved her back out and locked the door. I said, "Wait outside." She waited for 4 hours in the snow without a coat while my mother watched from inside the warm house, drinking hot chocolate. When my daughter knocked again, begging to come in, my father opened the door and slapped her face. "Stop bothering us." Then he pushed her down the steps into the snow. When I found out what happened, I just said calmly, "Okay." 16 hours later, my parents received a call from their bank and started screaming. The text from my neighbor arrived at 2:47 p.m. Check your camera. I pulled up the security footage in the hallway. My 5-year-old daughter, Molin, stood at our gate in her school uniform. No coat. The timestamp showed 11:23 a.m. over 3 hours ago. Snow covered her shoulders. She was crying. Behind her was a massive sold sign my parents had planted in my yard. I watched my mother shove Molin backward when she tried to enter. I watched my baby fall into the snow. Then my mother walked back inside my house, the one I'd been paying the mortgage on for 6 years. I scrolled through the footage. At 1:30 p.m., my mother stood at the window with hot chocolate, watching Molin freeze. At 2:15 p.m., my father opened the door, his hand connected with my daughter's face. She stumbled down the steps into the snow. My neighbor Angela had rescued her at 2:43 p.m. The hospital confirmed mild hypothermia. I called my lawyer, Kenneth. Execute Plan B. Now see, I'd been preparing for this. My parents were controllers who demanded their names go on my house deed 3 years ago in exchange for the down payment. They owned 1/3 as tenants in common. They thought that gave them power. They forgot I work in commercial real estate finance. 6 months ago, when they started getting aggressive about my new boyfriend, I'd quietly formed an LLC. I'd been paying myself rent, building documentation. Tonight, I transferred my 1/3 ownership to that LLC. Here's what my parents didn't understand. Each co-owner can sell their share independently, and my LLC could petition for partition, forcing the property sale unless they bought out my third. At current market value, 1/3 was worth $187,000 cash. I filed the partition action at 6:47 p.m. The notice hit their email at 6:48 p.m. At 6:51 p.m., my mother called, screaming, "What did you do? You locked my daughter outside until she developed hypothermia." I said calmly, "Now you have 60 days to pay the LLC $187,000, or the house goes to auction. Where are we supposed to go? Maybe wait at the gate until someone picks you up." I also filed for a restraining order with the security footage as evidence. Child Protective Services opened an investigation. The police charged my father with assault. My private investigator discovered my parents were leveraged to the hilt, barely any liquid assets. They couldn't afford to fight me or buy out my third. They tried selling their 2/3 share. No buyer wanted a partial interest in a property headed for partition. Finally, desperate and drowning in legal fees, they offered to sell me their combined 2/3 for $250,000, $124,000 below market value. I countered at $210,000. They accepted within a day. I now own the house outright through the LLC. I rent it to a nice family. The income covers the mortgage and builds my daughter's college fund. My father took a plea deal. 2 years probation, anger management, permanent restraining order from Molin until she's 18. My parents moved to Florida years ago. They tell people they're enjoying retirement. They never mentioned the granddaughter in Oregon they haven't seen in years. Molin is 15 now. Last week she asked if what I did was revenge. I think it was justice, I said. Revenge is about making someone suffer. Justice is about protecting people and making sure bad actions have consequences. That sold sign they planted was meant to symbolize my failure. Instead, it became the marker for the day I sold them out of my life completely. Best investment I ever made.